I'm John Bailey. I'm in charge of the radio operation for WFIU, part of WFIU and WTIU, the NPR and PBS stations. Well, I came to town 11 years ago as the marketing director for WFIU and found myself a few years later managing George. George at that point had been around for decades. He started with us as a part-timer in 1967, went away for a while, came back, went full-time with us in 1977. Station's been around at this point for almost 72 years, and George saw us through well over 2/3 of that time. There wasn't a whole lot that I had to teach George, but I certainly learned a lot from my time with him. Well, George was the chief announcer behind the scenes. He was the person who supervised and trained generations of announcers who came through. And to listeners, he was the constant daily presence on air. He was, to a lot of people, the voice of WFIU. I remember when I started at the station, if the first person on the air in the morning did not get to the studio and turn off an alarm by 5:45, then George would automatically be called. That was George's role for a very long time, to be the point person in emergencies. But that was a behind-the-scenes role. The manager before me, Will Murphy, once said, "George Walker is the sun. Every morning he's just there." And it was true. He was the host at some point in the morning every weekday for 45 years. I've looked into it. It might be a record. I can't find anybody who was a daily host at their station for longer. Well, George programmed and played music that served two purposes, depending on how you wished to listen. It was great background music if you simply wanted a good companion for your work day or anything else you were doing throughout your day. It was also great foreground music. If you wanted to listen closely, then you could strap on the headphones, really tune in to what you were hearing, and you'd have George Walker acting as your guide the whole time. George was a steady hand. He was a consistent presence. He was unflappable. I never saw him get angry, and always positive and optimistic and cheerful, and he was just George.
So I've listened to public radio my whole life, and I've only worked there for a little under 3 years. And he's someone who has been a staple at the radio station for 45 years. And I don't know of hardly anybody who's been a staple somewhere for that long and been so productive and well-liked. And I mean, he's the nicest man. He's married to a lovely lady, and they're just a wonderful couple, and he's done so many great things for this community. I'm glad that he's going to get acknowledged.
George deserves this award because he has been wrapped into the community in various ways for so long, not just as a host on air, not just as a mentor, but as a keeper of the cultural flame in Bloomington, reviewing operas and theater productions and connected with everybody who has made the cultural wheel turn in Bloomington. And there will never be another George. Nobody was like him. Nobody ever will be like him.